All right, welcome back to your Daily Read Aloud, The Wild Robot. We are to the very exciting finale at the end. Cadence, what happened last time?
First, Roz got attacked by the three
Rico. We've got 3 Rico robots.
And then all the animals joined in and tried to help kill them.
Yep.
And then the animals used the gun to kill the last one.
All right, so the animals were able to destroy all 3 Rico robots. And before Rico 1 died, the last one, the otters and the vultures were able to shoot the robot. Because remember, Roz can't fire a rifle. She can't harm anything. What did that Rico tell them that we were thinking, this might be a problem? Emma?
More of the Ricos will come and to go to the ship to get fixed.
Yep. So they said, no matter what you do, more will come. Our job is to take you back, and we will continue until we have you. So we talked a little bit about what maybe they would try to do, but we don't know, so let's read on. Chapter 76 is called The Broken Robot. Geese and otters were bustling all around Roz. They were pulling arms and legs out from the robot pile and pressing them against her body. They were hoping to hear thwip sounds, and that the robot limbs would snap right into place, and Roz would return to her old self, and life on the island would go back to normal. But nothing happened. No matter what they did, the limbs wouldn't attach. Our robot's body was too badly damaged. "I'm sorry, Ma," said Brightbill, his voice trembling. "I thought this would work." "It is okay, son," said Roz calmly. "I am lucky I can still think and speak." The animals tried to smile at their poor friend, but they couldn't hide their sadness. Roz was a mangled wreck, and there was nothing they could do to fix her. The robot wanted to be strong for her son and her friends. She wanted to ease their worried minds and tell them everything would be fine. But Roz knew that everything would not be fine. She looked down at her broken body. Then she looked up at the geese and the otters and said, "I will need some help getting home." Chapter 77, The Meeting. Strong, nimble creatures carried Roz up the sea cliffs and across the island. They carefully propped her inside the nest. They built a fire, and then they left the robot with her son. Roz and Brightbill sat there, staring at the flames until the goose finally said, "Do you need anything, Ma?" "I could really use some new arms and legs." The robot chuckled at her own bad joke. "That isn't funny," cried the goose. "My mother is broken and I don't know what to do about it." "I'm sorry for joking." Roz adjusted her voice to a more serious tone. "I know you want to fix me, but there is nothing anyone here can do." At these words, her son looked away. "Brightbill, I am afraid we have some difficult decisions to make. I think you should arrange a meeting of our closest friends. We could use their advice." The goose disappeared out the door, and soon Roz's oldest and wisest friends were on their way. Loudwing was the first to arrive. She limped into the lodge on her injured foot and sat close by to her robot friend. Mr. Beaver appeared next, followed by Fink and Swooper. Then Tawny curled up on the floor. Mother Bear was too badly hurt to make the journey, so Nettle came in her place. She sat in the garden with her enormous head jutting in through the doorway. Brightbill returned with Chit-Chat, who was nursing her burned tail. The last one to crawl in was Crag, the old turtle. Once everyone was there, the meeting began. The group talked all through the night. They discussed the Ricos. They discussed what to do about Roz. They discussed how to keep the island safe. There were stark differences of opinion, and tempers flared, but by daybreak, the group had agreed to a plan of action. That morning, the dawn truce didn't take place in the Great Meadow. Instead, it took place in a small meadow by the foot of the mountain in front of the airship. Weary animals quietly hobbled into the clearing. The only sounds came from a gurgling brook that wound through the gathering and right past our robot. Roz sat in the wet grass. She was leaned against a rock. She looked so sad and frail. However, she still had her thoughts and her words, and for the moment, that was all she needed. "Good morning, animals of the island." Roz's voice filled the meadow. "I must look strange to you, all beaten up like this, but I hope I still sound like your old friend." Hundreds of heads nodded. "You fought bravely yesterday. You risked your lives defending me, and I am eternally grateful. But many of our friends were wounded. Some may not recover. And there is worse news. Before the last Rico died, he told me that more of his kind will come to our island. They might already be on the move. And even if we defeat them, still more will come. My makers will not rest until all of their property has been retrieved. They want the dead robots. They want the broken parts. They want me. The crowd was silent. But I care about this island far too much to put any more lives in danger. And so, my friends, I must leave. Voices cried out. Don't go, Roz. Next time we'll be prepared. We risked our lives so you could stay. I hear you. The robot's voice cut through the din. But look at me. My body is ruined. And the Rico said the only ones who can help me are my makers. What if he lied? Howled the voice. You can't trust those monsters. You are right, said Roz. He might have been lying. But there may be no more hope for me. This is the last chance I have to take. Animals, you taught me to be wild. I want to be wild again, and so I must try to get the repairs I need. It is for the good of me and the island that I return to my makers. A calm settled over the crowd. They knew Roz was right. Chapter 78, The Farewell. Our robot had an army of animals at her command, and she asked them to bring every robot part and rifle back to the airship. Absolutely everything had to go. It was the only way to be sure that the Ricos would never come back. The island animals had no trouble locating the remains of the dead robots. Retrieving those remains took a bit more effort, but they were up to the challenge. Teams of clever creatures returned with robot parts of different shapes and sizes. Smashed heads and broken rifles and twisted tubes and heavy bodies were all loaded onto the ship until the entire island had been cleared. Even the tiniest scraps were collected. It's amazing what an army of animals can do. A light mist was falling when they finally heaved Roz through the ship's doorway. Her head slowly turned around to face the crowd of geese and beavers and owls and insects and foxes and raccoons and vultures and moose and bears and opossums and fish and deer and otters and turtles and woodpeckers and squirrels and frogs and hares and on and on. Okay, so when you guys write run-on sentences, that's what they sound like when you read them. Good. Every animal on the island had come to give the robot a proper send-off. Goodbye, you wild animals, Roz's voice echoed through the gray mist. The wild animals smiled, and then a few of them started to roar. Then more started to screech, and then more started howling and chirping and grunting. Soon, every creature was hollering goodbye to Roz. The chorus of wild voices grew louder and louder, shaking the robot's body, rattling the ship, booming across the island and up into the clouds. And then their voices gradually died down to silence. Brightbill fluttered up to his mother's shoulder. You understand why I must leave, said the robot. I understand, sniffed the goose. More Ricos could be headed here right now. I just do not know. There is so much I do not know. I think it is time I get some answers. Will I ever see you again? Said Brightbill, wiping his eyes. You are my son, and this is my home, said Roz. I will do everything in my power to return. Brightbill hugged his mother's worn face. I love you, Mama. I love you, son. The goose fluttered back to his flock. The robot took one last look at her home. The door hummed closed. Chapter 79, The Departure. The airship's engines automatically fired up. Then the ship slowly floated above the island, turned to the south, and disappeared into the clouds. Chapter 80, The Sky. Our story ends in the sky, where a robot was being whisked away from the only home she'd ever known. As Roz sat in the airship, broken and alone and speeding towards a mysterious future, she looked back at her miraculous past. Reader, it must seem impossible that our robot could have changed so much. Maybe the Ricos were right. Maybe Roz really was defective, and some glitch in her programming had caused her to accidentally become a wild robot. Or maybe Roz was designed to think, to learn and change. She had simply done those things better than anyone could have imagined. However it happened, Roz felt lucky to have lived such an amazing life, and every moment had been recorded in her computer brain. Even her earliest memories were perfectly clear. She could still see the sun shining through the gash in her crate. She could still hear the waves crashing against the shore. She could still smell the salt water in the pine trees. Would she ever see and hear and smell those things again? Would she ever again climb a mountain or build a lodge or play with a goose? Not just a goose, a son. Bright Bill had been Roz's son from the moment she picked up his egg. She'd saved him from certain death, and then he'd saved her. He was the reason Roz had lived so well for so long. And if she wanted to continue living, if she wanted to be wild again, she needed to be with her family and her friends on her island. So, as Roz raced through the sky, she began computing a plan. She would get the repairs she needed. She would escape from her new life. She would find her way back home. And that is the end of The Wild Robot. All right. So, friends at home, I'm not sure that I've told you this. There is a second book that we will read, okay? So we are not done today. And in fact, we are going to start the second book. So I will be right back with the book. So here is the second book, The Wild Robot Escapes. So we will read a little bit of this today, and then we will move on. So the cover's a little different. Okay, the first book, our robot... This is why we will lose a tally, my in-person class. Right now you are to be sitting and quiet and listening. So if you're not facing the front, turn around and face the front. All right, so if we're looking at our two books, we can compare. The first book, what setting was Roz in, even just on the cover? Hayden?
The forest.
Okay, it was very wild in the forest outside. Now, just looking at our new cover, what predictions can you make about our setting? Alex? What does it look like she's in? Is she in a forest?
No.
So not a forest. Angie, what do you think?
Factory.
Okay, could be a factory. Emma?
Yeah, factory.
Okay. It looks very industrial, right? Hudson?
It could be like where water flows.
Okay, like a sewer or something?
Yeah.
Okay. Cadence?
Factory.
Factory. Liam?
If you look at where the robot is on the cover, she's on the same exact,
The same spot?
yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's just there's different background.
Yeah. All right, well, good predictions. We will find out. All right. And this book is dedicated to the wild places of the future. All right, chapter 1 is called The City. Our story begins in a city, with buildings and streets and bridges and parks. Humans were strolling, automobiles were driving, airships were flying, robots were hard at work. Weaving through the city streets was a delivery truck. The truck knew where to go and how to get there all by itself. Well, what does that mean? The truck knows how to get there by itself. Hudson?
It's probably a robot truck, or it's a Tesla truck, which does really exist.
Okay, yes, if you guys didn't know, we are on the very brink of having driverless cars. In fact, some of them are already operating.
They're dangerous.
Yes, so there are a lot of things to work out. We won't get into all that right now, but probably in your lifetime, you guys will all have driverless cars. That would be my guess. You won't have to drive. You'll just program your car. It'll know where to go. Emma?
It is a Tesla. It's not a Tesla truck. It is one.
Okay, so Tesla is just one brand. There are lots of brands of cars that are working on making driverless cars. So this truck is a delivery truck. It doesn't have a driver. It pulled up to a construction site and automatically unloaded some crates. A few more turns and it unloaded more crates down at the docks. The truck zigged and zagged across the city, delivering crates as it went. And then it merged onto a highway. Cars and buses and trucks were cruising along the highway together. But as the delivery truck continued, the traffic became lighter, the buildings became smaller, and the landscape became greener. With nothing but open road ahead, the truck accelerated to its top speed. The landscape outside was now just a green blur, occasionally broken by a flicker of gray as a town flew past. On and on the delivery truck went, racing over long bridges, shooting through mountain tunnels, gliding down straight stretches of highway, until it started to slow. It drifted from the fast lane to the exit lane, and then it rolled down a ramp and into farm country. Clouds of dust billowed up behind the truck as it drove past fields and fences. In the hazy distance, enormous barns loomed above the plains. The air was thick with the smells of soil and livestock. Robot crews methodically worked the crops and fed the animals and operated the massive farm machines. A hill gradually climbed into view. The hill was crowned with trees and white buildings. Another farm. But this one was smaller and shabbier than the rest. What does shabbier mean? Cadence?
Like different.
Okay, it's definitely different. Different in what way? Chloe?
I'm not thinking about that, but the barn, I think, is where Brightbill goes. Wait, what's his name?
Brightbill.
Oh, yeah, Brightbill. When he goes, like, to his flock.
Oh, when they were on migration and they went to the farm?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, could be. All right, so what does shabbier mean? Hayden?
Older.
Okay, older, definitely. Angie?
It's not about that, but I didn't trust the cat before because I think she was lying because she maybe knew the farmer would come and shoot them, so that's why she.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Okay, so shabbier. What does shabbier mean? That's the only answer I can take right now. Noah?
Shabby kind of means like weird and mysterious. So shabbier would mean like it's weird. It's kind of out of the ordinary of all the other ones.
Okay, you're right that it's out of the ordinary. Madeline?
Like a little bit dirtier and stuff.
Yes. Okay, if something's shabby, it's a little run down. So if my shirt had a bunch of holes in it and it was kind of falling apart at the seams, it would be shabby. Okay? So shabby means something that's probably been used a lot and it's kind of wearing apart. All right. So they're heading up towards another farm, but this one was smaller and shabbier than the rest. Out front was a crooked sign that read Hilltop Farm. Wheels crunched on gravel as the delivery truck rolled into the driveway and up onto the top of the hill. It stopped beside the front porch of the farmhouse and dropped its last crate to the ground. Then the truck drove away. Reader, can you guess what was tightly packed inside that crate? If you guessed a robot, you're correct. But this was no ordinary robot. It was Razum Unit 7134. You might remember her old life on a remote wild island. Well, Raz's new life was just about to begin. Chapter 2, The Crate. Woof, woof, woof! Inside the farmhouse, a dog was barking and scraping at the front door. When the door finally opened, the dog scurried out and bounced down the porch steps. And then a man appeared. The man walked with a limp and slowly made his way down to the crate where his dog was sniffing around. He unlatched the top of the crate and it swung open on its hinges. Packing foam was tossed aside, restraining cords were unfastened, and there was Razum Unit 7134. Her lifeless body sparkled in the late day sun. The man reached down and pressed an important little button on the back of the robot's head. Click. All right, now, predictions. And we're just going to raise hands. If you think Raz will be able to remember her old memories, raise your hand. If you think Raz will not be able to remember her old memories, raise your hand. All right, we're kind of a split group. All right, friends at home, we're split. We'll see. Chapter 3, The Robot. The robot's computer brain booted up and her programs began coming online. Then she automatically stood, stepped out of her crate, and started to speak. Hello, I am Razum Unit 7134, but you may call me Raz. While my robotic systems are activating, I will tell you about myself. Once fully activated, I will be able to move and communicate and learn. Simply give me a task and I will complete it. Over time, I will find better ways of completing my tasks. I will become a better robot. When I am not needed, I will stay out of the way and keep myself in good working order. Thank you for your time. I am now fully activated. All right, last chapter for today, The Family. Welcome to Hilltop Farm, Raz. My name is Mr. Sharif. You belong to me now. Raz studied the man with her softly glowing eyes, and in a robotic voice she said, Shh. Sorry, everyone. Raz studied the man with her softly glowing eyes, and in a robotic voice she said, Hello, Mr. Sharif. This old fella here is Oscar. Mr. Sharif scratched his dog's head. You won't see much of him. Oscar spends most of his time sleeping in the house. Hello, Oscar, said the robot. A goofy grin stretched across the dog's face, and he let out a happy yelp. Mr. Sharif pulled a small computer from his pocket. He tapped the screen and brought up a map of Hilltop Farm. Here you are, Raz, he said as the robot's electronic signal appeared on the map. You'll be working all over this farm, and now that you're in the system, I can always see right where you are. What would you like me to do? Said Raz. You can start by putting your crate in the garage over there. I'll hold on to it in case I ever have to send you back to the factory. Clearly, Raz was designed to take orders, because her body automatically did as it was told. She stuffed the packing materials into her crate and carried it into the garage. When Roz returned, Mr. Sharif was watching a school bus winding along the country road. Oscar barked and dashed off as the bus came to a stop at the bottom of the driveway. A girl and a boy jumped out, and the bus drove on. In their matching school uniforms, the children looked almost identical. But the boy was a little taller, and the girl's hair was a little longer. They meandered up the driveway and romped around with their dog until they noticed Roz. "A robot," said the girl, running up. "It's about time we got one," said the boy. "She's refurbished," said the man. "She's the cheapest one I could find, but she'll make a decent farmer." So refurbished means that you've been built back together. So that would be like a robot that was broken. They took a bunch of parts and made a new robot. So she's not brand new. Eric?
My friend got a refurbished PS4 and they said it worked, and then the day he got it, it didn't work.
Yeah. So sometimes it's a good deal, sometimes it's not. But you can buy things that have been used and kind of refurbished. That's a word you'll hear a lot. And it happens a lot with electronics. All right. So she's the cheapest one I could find, but she'll make a decent farmer. "What's her name?" said the girl. "She said her name's Roz." "That's just her starter name," said the boy. "We can give her any name we want. Let's call her Farmbot." "I kind of like the name Roz," said the girl. "Me too," said Mr. Sharif. "Let's leave her name as it is. Roz, I'd like you to meet my daughter, Jaya, and my son, Jad." "Hello, Jaya and Jad," said the robot. The children looked at each other and smiled. "Will Roz take orders from me?" asked Jad. "What about me?" asked Jaya. "She'll take orders from both of you." "Roz, I order you to do my homework," said Jaya. "Don't waste her time with nonsense," Mr. Sharif grumbled. "Roz is here to do farm work, not homework. Understand?" The children nodded. "Now, I order you kids to bring the dog inside and do your own homework," said Mr. Sharif. "I need to show Roz the farm." All right, and that is where we will end today. So I will see you all tomorrow.